Hello, and welcome to the 505 session. You've made it almost the full day. During the next 30 minutes, I will cover the conventional and non-conventional methods that Twilio has implemented that have ultimately granted us control of our once exorbitant cloud hosting costs. My hope is that talking points within this session will spark an aha moment for you that will empower you to do more with less. I do want to take the time to make one note. Originally, this session was titled Controlling Your AWS Costs, but most of these methods that I will discuss today can be applied to most infrastructure management. Okay, so a little bit about myself. By official title, like Matt said, I am a technical program manager within our platform engineering team. However, my day-to-day responsibilities are best summed up by this popular herding cats idiom. Our hosting requirements frequently change from team to team, which makes it a challenge to keep up with managing our infrastructure. So, if herding cats doesn't sound like it fits for stuff that I do after this presentation, I'll be at Fog City in about 20 minutes. I like bourbon on the rocks, and we'll be happy to hear your suggestions of what my title could be. Okay. To best explain our wins, it is important for us to start with a look back, specifically to the moment where we realized our process really wasn't working, where we started to identify our mistakes and propose betterments. With that, we'll start way back to 2014, a time when the world we call Twilio was young and not yet an IPO, when we proudly made the assumption that our revenue projections were surely going to exponentially outpace our cost projections, slam dunking our profitability predictions. The graph I'm about to show you represents what our total hosting costs compared to our total revenue were to be, plotted along the timeline, starting from tomorrow and continuing into the far-off future. When we initially plotted revenue, we were immediately ecstatic. The trend shows that we were projected to incur the ever-popular Silicon Valley hockey stick trajectory. We were on our way to success. But then we plotted cost. And that ecstatic feeling immediately was replaced with doom and despair. Let's take a moment and focus on that near-future data point. As it turns out, our once proud assumption looks like it's fake. And instead, our profitability was going to be short-lived. Simply put, not only would our hosting costs equal our revenue in the near future, they were going to begin to exceed and continue to shortly thereafter and on into the far future. Our predicted fate looked bleak, with ill thoughts of Twilio, the world of Twilio exploding. And the real issue was we didn't quite know why this was projected to happen, and we were really unsure of what to do. So as most startup companies in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, we took a brief moment to pause and reflect. We knew we were lucky that we still had some time to change our predicted outcome. We had to act quickly, though. We had to focus, and we knew we had to find a balance. We ultimately defined this process as optimizing our infrastructure. We implemented 3 conventional methods. The first, to investigate our deployment costs, to better identify how they happen. The second, to establish processes that would allow us to become more of a proactive versus reactive company when it came to infrastructure management. And the third, start to research and potentially invest in tools to monitor our hosts. In addition to conventional methods, we also implemented what we would believe to be 2 non-conventional methods to further drive our infrastructure efficiency. We spent time fostering the challenging conversations internally with the hopes of better identifying common problems to solve across teams. And the second, to broadcast our experiences externally to our peers within the industry, to evoke power in numbers. So once we concluded our deployment investigation, we found we were deploying more frequently than we thought. In addition to shipping more code and ultimately more product features to our customers, both positive, we found some glaring negatives. We were wasting resources, leaving idle hosts running often, and failing to remember to shut them down. We were mismanaging our EC2 reservations, not consistently modifying our purchases to align with our ever-changing host footprint, essentially burning cash. And lastly, we were operating soon-to-be outdated technology. We were hesitant to upgrade to the latest and greatest, even though that new technology was already proven to be bigger, better, faster, and cheaper. So we started establishing the first of 3 major processes. The first was to continue to have resources to build and automate the cleanup process of idle hosts, with the coding inspiration stemming from the open source Janitor Monkey product from Netflix. We built, using Python, and implemented a Twilio product called Janitor. Janitor employs a 2-phase algorithm similar to a mark and sweep. The first is the mark phase. In this phase, all unmarked hosts will pass through Janitor safeguards and through checks to determine if it's idling. If a host is confirmed idle, a kill date is computed, and the host is then marked and stored. The second is the kill phase. This is when the act of killing the marked idle host actually occurs. The product is both an internal UI and an API powered by a Flask app. Told you I like bourbon. Just wanted to throw that in there. Which uses several individual worker processes. It also consists of a cron job running on small hosts, which are responsible for the act of marking and killing them, all the while notifying host owners of the process. There are a couple service dependencies. The first, our internal AWS host provisioning tool called boxconfig. Janitor relies on the state of our booted host in each environment we have, in prod, development, and stage. The second service dependency is on AWS, relying on their simple DB service to store marked hosts, as well as the EC2 service to fetch and verify EC2 instance IDs. In showing the UI here, an engineer is able to control both the frequency and the grace period for Janitor to run on hosts within their clusters. This grants them full control and responsibility of managing their idle host waste. This implementation has been wildly successful for us. Our on-demand cost savings have been in the magnitude of 12% within the first few months of Janitor launch. Needless to say, there will always be some work to be done around host waste. The ultimate goal is to minimize it as much as possible. So the second process we established was to optimize our reservation management. We calculated our our cost break-even point between on-demand and reserved instance spend. This is very important in identifying how many reservations we needed to optimally purchase. We then created a workflow that enabled teams to communicate their reservation needs, increasing efficiency. Previously, we were guessing needs, or teams weren't given enough insight into how their reservations were behaving. We decided on a best practice to only purchase a specific reservation type which best aligned with our available cash in a given future month. For those inquiring, we purchased the 12-month all-upfront reservation types across all regions. In addition to the capacity guarantee in reserving, we are also able to easily modify our reservations more consistently. Again, to better align with our frequency in deploying. We also built an internal tool called Spenditron, which provides a more granular view into our expiring reservations. We are now able to see where we purchased, how many, what instance type, and where they are set to expire. With this view, we are now able to become proactive rather than reactive with repurchasing. And one other win for this process. We have been able to experience a huge reduction in the time it took for our accounting team to reconcile month-end hosting costs. We established a tech refresh plan. Typically, we wait until AWS has made available most of the new instance types within a family before we upgrade. Our current refresh rate is about once every 2 years, which is again dependent on AWS availability. Once a refresh has been confirmed, we then require teams to migrate to the newest instance types based on when the prior type reservations are expiring. This process deters from prior type reservations becoming unused and thus cost waste. We took the initial cost savings from cleaning up idle resources and reinvested it in both internal and external monitoring tools, namely Spenditron for internal, and for external, Datadog and Cloud Health are the companies we choose. With greater insights provided by these tools, we have been able to make better business decisions. Robust strategies have become easier to define, and we have saved a tremendous amount of money from incurring more unnecessary costs. We now hold weekly operational reviews, with all teams required to have some sort of engineer representation. We discuss week-over-week technical challenges and wins. We explain trends in host costs and usage by monitoring. And we discuss product strategy, thus setting a frequency and reporting performance metrics and improving communication. Now let's talk to the non-conventional methods. With the focus on fostering communication, we have created widely available and inclusive forums that create a safe place for teams to brainstorm solutions to their common infrastructure problems. With communities forums, most new issues are now solved faster. We also started sharing experiences externally. At first, it was the idea of putting our business issues out there. That's really scary shit. It's not really done that much. But we made it a priority. We established a more familial relationship with our cloud service account managers, AWS. Having this type of relationship is essential when things go wrong, as they do. We started to network with our industry peers. We took a chance in hoping that they were experiencing some of our same issues and concerns. And we hope that we can maybe walk away with a new resolution to a festering problem. Or maybe that our peers could walk away with our help. Remember that graph representing our 2014 fate predictions? Well, let's see what the optimizations did for us. This graph represents our current efficiency metric, measuring the ratio of our hosting costs compared to total revenue. Starting back in December of 2013 and moving to the end of 2016, you can see how the metric has decreased over time. To further show the win in efficiency of doing more with less, we've included the average number of running instances that were deployed by the end of each year. By the end of 2013, we averaged 2,500 running instances with a 9.3% cost to revenue. Not the best. By the end of 2014, we averaged 3,600 instances with a 9.1% cost to revenue. This slight decrease shown here can be attributed to AWS decreasing their hosting prices. Oh, that's me. That's the year I came on board to Twilio. In 2015, this is when we started to optimize, implementing the methods previously discussed. As you can see, by the end of this year, we drastically decreased our cost revenue by 3.6%, while also increasing our average running instances to 4,000. That's the point of optimization. Definitely a success. That's Jason Hudak, for those of you that don't know. He is our VP of Platform Engineering, and he came on board in late 2015. So by the end of 2016, not only did we increase our average running instances to 5,100, but we also further reduced our cost to revenue metric to the lowest it's been to date, 5.3%. That, ladies and gentlemen, is optimization at its finest, truly proving that Twilio is doing more with less. So, in thinking about managing tomorrow, the near future, and the far-off future, we continue to ask ourselves three very important questions. How do we prevent the world of Twilio from exploding from unnecessary, unexpected costs? And how do we keep the current momentum of our optimization success going? And how do we continue to do more with less? Well, we continue to build and improve upon the processes that we've already implemented. We maintain a flexible platform, ever building it to be resilient to unexpected infrastructure issues. We stay informed, adamantly keeping up with technology news with our cloud service providers and their offerings. We continue to have those challenging conversations internally and externally in hopes to expedite solutions. We share cost accountability across each of our small teams, empowering them with responsibility to manage their own costs directly. And finally, we continue to solve with software, making things easier for our engineers to stay focused on building and shipping products. This is how we will manage our future fate, to do more with less. Thank you all for spending time with me this afternoon.